In the year 120 AD, 5,000 of Rome's most elite soldiers marched north into the mists of ancient Britain. They were the 9th Legion, feared across the empire, undefeated in battle. They carried the golden eagle standard of Rome, a symbol of their invincibility. They were never seen again. No bodies were ever found. No weapons. No armor. No eagle. 5,000 men simply vanished from the face of the earth, as if they had marched straight into another dimension. This is the greatest mystery of the Roman Empire. The 9th Legion, known as Legio IX Hispana, was not just any military unit. These were battle-hardened warriors who had conquered half the known world. For over a century, they had been the iron fist of Rome. They had fought in Spain, crushing rebellions with ruthless efficiency. They had sailed to Britain with Emperor Claudius, where they carved through the Celtic tribes like a knife through silk. They had survived the revolt of Queen Boudicca in 61 AD, one of the bloodiest uprisings Rome had ever faced. These men were survivors. They were professionals. They were legends. Each soldier was equipped with the finest armor Rome could forge. The gladius, a short sword designed for brutal close combat. The pilum, a javelin that could pierce any shield. And the scortum, a massive rectangular shield that had protected Roman soldiers for generations. But none of it would save them. The year was 108 AD. The 9th Legion was stationed in Eboracum, what we now call York, in northern England. For decades, they had been the guardians of Rome's northernmost frontier, standing between civilization and the wild lands beyond. But beyond Hadrian's Wall, in the fog-shrouded highlands of Caledonia, the Pictish tribes were growing restless. These weren't ordinary warriors. The Picts were savage fighters who painted their bodies blue, who knew every hill and valley, who struck without warning and vanished into the mist like ghosts. Roman records from this period are frustratingly vague, but we know this. Sometime around 108 to 120 AD, the 9th Legion received orders. They were to march north, to pacify the tribes, to remind the barbarians of Rome's power. The legate, the legion's commander, gathered his officers. 5,000 men prepared for war. They packed supplies for months. They sharpened their weapons. They prayed to Mars, the god of war, for victory. At dawn, they marched through the gates of Eboracum. The citizens watched them go, banners flying, armor gleaming in the early morning light. It was a magnificent sight, the power of Rome on the move. It was the last time anyone would see them alive. Weeks passed, then months. The Legion should have returned by now, or at least sent word of their progress. But there was only silence. At first, Roman officials weren't worried. Communications in ancient times were slow. Military campaigns often took longer than expected. Perhaps the Legion was simply delayed. But as the months stretched into years, the silence became deafening. No messengers arrived. No wounded soldiers stumbled back to tell the tale. No scouts reported finding any trace of the Legion. It was as if 5,000 men had simply ceased to exist. Rome sent search parties, but they found nothing. The northern territories were vast and hostile, filled with endless forests and treacherous bogs. If you didn't want to be found there, you wouldn't be. But this wasn't a handful of deserters. This was an entire legion. Over 5,000 men, plus auxiliary troops, supply wagons, horses, pack animals. How does something that massive simply disappear? The Roman high command was baffled. More disturbing, they were terrified. If a full legion could vanish without a trace, what did that say about Rome's power? What did it say about their invincibility? For 2,000 years, historians have tried to solve this mystery, and the theories range from the plausible to the absolutely insane. Theory number 1. They were ambushed and annihilated. Perhaps the Picts lured them into a trap, maybe in a narrow valley or dense forest where Roman formations couldn't maneuver. The legion was surrounded, cut to pieces, their bodies left to rot or thrown into peat bogs where they would never be found. The Picts, knowing Rome would seek revenge, hid all evidence of the battle. This theory has merit. The Picts were masters of guerrilla warfare. They knew their land. They could have picked the perfect killing ground. And if they disposed of the bodies in the marshes, nature would have erased all trace within months. Theory number 2. They mutinied and deserted. Perhaps the harsh conditions, the endless grey skies, the constant threat of attack, broke their morale. Maybe the soldiers decided they'd had enough of Rome's wars and simply walked away, dispersing into the wilderness, adopting new identities, starting new lives far from the empire's reach. But this seems unlikely. Roman military discipline was legendary. Desertion meant death. not just for you, but potentially for your family back home. Would 5,000 men risk that? Theory number 3. They were transferred. Some historians believe the legion wasn't destroyed at all. They argue that Rome, embarrassed by a major defeat, simply reassigned the survivors to another region and erased the 9th Legion from the records. Maybe they were sent east to fight the Parthians, or south to Africa, given a new number and a fresh start. There's some evidence for this. Roman records from later periods mention troops from the 9th Legion serving in other locations. But if so, why the mystery? Why not just say they were transferred? Modern archaeology has uncovered tantalizing clues, but they only deepen the mystery. In the Netherlands, archaeologists found roof tiles stamped with the 9th Legion's mark, dated to around 120 AD. This suggests at least part of the legion was still active after the supposed disappearance. Were these survivors, or does this mean the legion never went to Caledonia at all? In Nijmegen, more tiles bearing the 9th's insignia were discovered, again, dated to the 120s AD. The legion's presence in the region is confirmed, but this raises more questions than answers. Here's what makes it stranger. After 120 AD, the 9th Legion completely vanishes from Roman records. No more inscriptions, no more mentions in official documents, no more tiles stamped with their mark. For an organization as bureaucratic as Rome, this is extraordinary. Legions didn't just disappear from paperwork. Even more mysterious, around the same time the 9th vanishes, Rome pulls back from Scotland. Hadrian's Wall is built, creating a permanent barrier between Roman Britain and the northern territories. It's as if Rome decided the north wasn't worth the cost. What happened up there that made Rome give up? In the 1960s, a British archaeologist claimed to have found the legion's eagle standard buried near the Scottish border. If true, this would be monumental. The eagle was the soul of the legion. Losing it in battle was the ultimate disgrace. Romans would fight to the death to protect it. But the discovery was never verified. The eagle, if it ever existed, disappeared again, adding another layer to the mystery. The Picts left no written records. They didn't build monuments or keep chronicles. Their history was oral, passed down through songs and stories, most of which are now lost to time. But fragments remain. Celtic legends speak of a great battle against the Romans in the Northern Highlands. They describe a valley running red with blood, where the ground was so soaked it became a marsh. They tell of Roman ghosts still marching through the mist, searching for a way home. In Pictish artwork, there are carvings that some interpret as depictions of Roman soldiers. But are they celebrating a victory over the 9th Legion, or just generic representations of their ancient enemy? One legend is particularly chilling. It speaks of the Romans marching into the land of eternal mist, where the boundaries between worlds grow thin. The story says the legion walked through a doorway in the hills and never returned, trapped forever in the realm of the dead. Superstition? Probably, but it shows how deeply the disappearance affected the people of the time. The Picts themselves seem to believe something supernatural had occurred. Here's the hardest truth about the 9th Legion. We will probably never know what really happened. The most likely explanation? They were destroyed in battle, probably ambushed in terrain that favored the Picts. The bodies were hidden or lost to the elements. Rome, humiliated by the loss of an entire legion, quietly struck them from the records and pretended they'd never existed. It's not as exciting as alien abduction or time portals, but it fits what we know about both Roman military disasters and how empires handle embarrassing defeats. But here's what makes this mystery so compelling: the complete absence of evidence. In almost every other case where Rome lost a legion, we have some record of it. Accounts of the battle, monuments to the fallen, something. The Battle of Teutoburg Forest in 9 AD saw 3 legions destroyed, and we have detailed descriptions of it from multiple sources. But the 9th Legion? Nothing. Just silence. Perhaps that silence is the answer. Perhaps the disappearance was so total, so catastrophic that Rome couldn't even bear to acknowledge it had happened. Easier to pretend the legion had never existed than to admit they'd been so utterly defeated. Or perhaps, somewhere beneath the Scottish Highlands, buried under 2,000 years of earth and time, the truth still lies waiting for someone to finally solve the greatest mystery of the Roman Empire. The story of the 9th Legion has captured imaginations for centuries. It's been the subject of novels, movies, and countless documentaries. Why? Because it represents something primal in human nature, the fear of vanishing without a trace, of being forgotten by history. 5,000 lives, gone in an instant. No graves to mark their passing, no monuments to remember their names, just emptiness where once there had been the might of Rome. Today, if you walk the windswept hills of Scotland, You might imagine you can still hear them, the tramp of thousands of feet, the clink of armor, the shouts of officers giving orders. Ghosts of the Ninth Legion, still marching north, forever seeking a battle they'll never win and a home they'll never find. The Roman Empire fell 1500 years ago. Its cities crumbled, its roads broke apart, its language evolved into something new. But the mystery of the Ninth Legion endures, as fresh and puzzling today as it was 2 millennia ago. So what do you think happened? Were they massacred by the Picts? Did they desert? Were they reassigned and lost to history through administrative error? Or is there something else? Something we haven't even considered? Some explanation that would make sense of the evidence but eludes us still? The Ninth Legion marched into the mist 2,000 years ago. They became legend. They became mystery. They became immortal in the only way that matters, by never being forgotten. Perhaps that's the real answer. Perhaps the mystery itself is their monument, more enduring than any stone column Rome could have built. The Ninth Legion Hispana. Gone, but never truly lost. What's your theory about what happened to the Ninth Legion? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this mystery from history, make sure to subscribe for more untold stories from the ancient world. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.